Hello? Stream. 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 What am I doing? Oh, yeah. Pulling up chat. I'm back. We're back. I'm back. It's been a bit. I think it's been like a month since I streamed last. I don't know. I got a new job, and it's been keeping me busy, but I've been itching to. I need to finish this case. I'm like two-thirds of the way through a great ace. I'm like more than that. I'm like at the final stretch of a great ace attorney case, and I need to finish it right. I gotta share this stream link. Hold on one second. Yeah, it's not quite a month. Last time I streamed was May 5th. And I was playing Yakuza, and there will be more Yakuza, but we need Great Ace Attorney is returning. And no, this is not a Gollum stream. Nobody asked me to play the Gollum game. I don't own it. It cost $50. I don't have that much in my bank account. No, we're gonna play Great Ace Attorney, and we're gonna finish this case. And I'm stocked up. I have pretzels for if Inspector what's his face Gregson. If Inspector Gregson comes on screen and starts chewing his chips. They're kind of stale. Yeah. Wait. Not the stalest pretzels I've eaten, but they're kind of stale. But it'll do. It'll do. I've mixed myself a concoction of vodka spritz and probiotic soda, cherry like lime. It just looks like pink lemonade. My usual drink for when Von Zeeks drinks. I have to get into character by eating everything that the characters eat. What? Install? What do you mean install? It's already installed. What are you talking about? Okay, okay. I was like, why did that show up on my screen? Um, oh, that. Just hearing that soundbite again has got me excited. Um, yeah, I know it supports an autosave. What are you doing? Hold on. Yes, Trial Part 3, The Old Bailey. March 15th. That's when I played this game, Mukbang. That's when I Mukbang stream. Mukbang Great Ace Attorney stream. Yeah, this is when I played last. Was March 15th was when I played this game last. And I left us hanging on a. Basically, last time I accused the police department's coroner of working with the the bad guy, the Enoch Drebber scientist man. Let's save the drink till I actually start. I've got this little drink mixed in a cup, and then I've got more vodka spritz to pour in the cup when it inevitably runs low. So we are geared up to beat this case, and this is going to be a big one. I have not had a day where I didn't either work late or I have not had a day where I didn't either work late or have evening plans in like 2 weeks. And when I did have that day, I went and bought Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So I've also been playing that instead of streaming. Apologies. But we're back. I'm excited to finish this case. Right, the jurors. Yay. My favorite character. Do we have vlogs from before this point? So they all think. What are they doing? Oh, right, because I just accused the coroner. So now I still need to get Breath of the Wild. I never finished Breath of the Wild. I just went straight into Tears of the Kingdom, and I do not regret it. It's a much better game. I've known that woman for years. She'd never be an accomplice to anything. He's talking about the coroner. It's utter nonsense to think that those two would ever be conniving with one another. None of these voices are going to match what I did for them before. We live with it. Oh dear, this is most troubling. But surely the waxwork the man stole is nothing to do with the coroner, is it? I have had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. And yet you're voting guilty?
I've seen no rigorous proof. I remember what voice this guy had. I've seen no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdie. Hold on, let me finish chewing. It's conjecture.
Oh god, I forgot about Corn Girl. Accusing someone without white evidence he's not a proper job, is he? Oh, won't have it. Somewhat unsurprisingly, it seems the introduction of this waxwork model to the proceedings has polarized opinion. I forgot about this part. Oh god. Oh yeah, and there's Von Zeke's assistant, who is almost definitely our dead friend Kazuma. So yeah, that's why I say this is a big one. I kind of didn't want to do this stream until I had all the necessary drinks and foods and plans ready, you know? Given that its face is obscured and its build in no way resembles that of the victim. So we're arguing that they used the wax figure as a body double, which is funny because that was my original theory way back when the case started, and the game, disproved it, but then reproved it again. Or it's re-suggesting the idea I had from the beginning. I can only applaud my learned friend's temerity at suggesting it is Mr. Asmon's body double. Yes, the applause is deafening. And yes, I know, it seems extraordinary. Excuse me. Did that little burp pick up on the mic? But that's the point. That's why I have a strong feeling it's actually a greater clue than anyone yet realizes. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? No thoughts. Head empty. It had to be this model. I think. Really? A reason why nothing else would do, you mean? Yes, and I'm convinced. Something far more significant than whether or not the model looks like the victim. Thinking out, this is making us to think outside the box, isn't it? Barely. Yeah, because it was in the back of my throat. I'm not going to go on the I don't burp normally rant anymore, because I think I've already done that on stream, actually. But my burps are not, I don't know. It's more like a clearing of my throat than it is a burp. We must prevent the trial from ending prematurely at all cost. Yes, agreed. I have to find a way out of this. Seek a way out. What is the music for this part? There's Enoch Drebber, so he's one of the bad guys, but I'm arguing that I'm arguing the coroner should be over here, because she's sus. I've known that woman for years. She'd never be an accomplice to anything. The order of things seems to have changed around here for some reason. I'm a copper, lad. It's a copper's discretion to bend the rules sometimes when needs must. What's wrong with that? Hey, cab. I've been working at the yard for 40-odd years. That's even more than I thought. We've only had a metropolitan police service in town for 70 years, you know? Of course, times have changed. The public didn't trust coppers back when I started. Do they trust them now? We had to fight crime, and we had to fight to win the public's trust as well. And when we did, forensic science was in its infancy too, even more than it is now, and she spearheaded the revolution. Dr. Sithe, you mean? I mean, her name is Sithe. That's right, about 10 years ago it was, when I was still a youngish bobby on the beat. That's when she started making a name for herself as a top-class coroner. And now look at her, head of the forensic investigation team. And a woman, no less. Well, you won't hear me complain. It's what we all dreamt of back then, I'll tell you. Could you tell me without holding that gun in the air? We were all out to uphold justice, lad. Full of vim we were, full of vim. That's coming across loud and clear. It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another. I don't really know, like, usually when we have these jury press moments, I can actually tell which ones are worth reading into, but I'm refreshing myself on information. I haven't played in a bit, so we're gonna press all of them and make sure I have a full understanding. We're only just starting to understand this case, especially after I took a 2-month break. What are you reading there, sir? The man behind those murders on Solar Pond Street was caught in 2 days flat. That's real policing. That's really not relevant to this case, is it? You're wrong there, because it was Dr. Sithe in charge of examining the bodies, and it was evidence arising from her work that led to the arrest of the scoundrel responsible. Oh. That's right, oh. That woman is at the forefront of this country's fight against crime. The idea that she's somehow involved in this murky business is a load of old tosh. A load of old tosh. The matchbook man is nothing to do with the coroner. Why would you assume that? Well, quite simply because that unsettling swindler has no relationship with that woman, does he? True. As it stands, we don't know of any connection. Oh gosh, but it would be delightfully romantic if they were somehow to have a mutual interest in the waxwork. Romantic? A woman of society such as myself views everything in terms of relationships, you know. Well, you learn something new every day, even if you don't want to. One might wonder about a possible relationship between the defendant and this coroner woman. Or perhaps between the defendant and the handsome prosecutor just there. What? What are you... what, huh? This woman may be more astute than I've been giving her credit for. If that's the woman's stance, then perhaps demonstrating some connection between the waxwork and Dr. Sithe would be enough. Okay. So, if I can prove a connection with somebody. Hold it! See, I'm curious about this one, because doesn't this one suggest that you would be in favor of, like, believing the coroner was bad? If you don't trust the police? Let's just say we have run into each other on numerous occasions while I've been performing on the street, with my oversized deck of cards. Right, I see. Obviously, artists such as myself cannot appear on stage, as we work in close proximity to our audiences. So we perform our great magic in parks, on street corners, and the like. But the police use any excuse they can to make our lives difficult. Excuse me. He's ready to shoot that guy. Do you have something to say in response to that, Mr. Ottermole?
Who are you calling a mass murderer?
Ah, sorry, my mistake. What? I got confused because I heard you look like him.
I don't look anything like the man. You want to be locked up, Sonny?
What? This is not... Perhaps we could move on. I was really wondering if you had something you wanted to add in response to what juror number 3 just said. And clearly you do from the way you're swinging that gun around.
Back in my day, back in the good old days, it wasn't like this.
What was it like, sir?
We worked our fingers to the bone to earn the public's trust, we did. And by Jove, we earned it. People respected us back then.
Respected you?
No one would have called a coroner into question in them days. A coroner's report was the hallmark of an investigation done right. Especially when Dr. Courtney Stevens put a name to it.
She changed her name? Married someone, perhaps?
She was the best of the best, and the apple of the force's eye.
Hold on a minute. What are you talking about? Who's Courtney Stevens?
Ah, sorry. Got a bit carried away there.
Stevens is Dr. Sithe's maiden name. Oh, so who is she married to, huh?
Of course, yes. Silly me. It's Sithe now, isn't it?
Stevens. I'm sure I've seen that name somewhere recently. Let's check the evidence logs. See if we can find another Stevens in here. Odie Asman. I forgot the victim's name is Odie Asman. Drebber. Where's, like, lore? Courtney Stevens. Oh, okay. So she did his autopsy report. Great. That's not entirely helpful. So she did the autopsy report of the professor. Huh. Okay. Did we know that already? Sorry to interrupt, sir. But do you think you could change... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, include that name. Okay, right, because Sato was suggesting that we need to find a link between the waxwork and the coroner. Surely the waxwork the man stole had nothing to do with the... And the waxwork is of the professor. I think we've got our...
Objection!
Which button is it? I don't know. Those two statements clearly contradict each other.
Good gracious! Two statements do you refer, counsel?
So, juror number 2. Oh gosh, me? What can I do for you? I presume that you heard what the juror number 6, what the juror number 6 said. It's brought to light the maiden name of the coroner, Dr. Sithe, which in turn has revealed a connection that wasn't apparent before. Well, naturally, as a woman of society, I find such connections and relationships irresistible. But oh golly, I'm afraid I fail to see what you mean. Dr. Sithe's maiden name is Stevens, and through that name, the coroner is very definitely linked to the waxwork of the killer. The defense has evidence to prove it. How utterly enthralling.
Counsel, the court cannot overlook that last remark. I very much hope there is substance to your claim.
Alright, where is it? Yeah.
Take that!
I have here a certain autopsy report from 10 years ago.
A 10-year-old autopsy report? What relevance does that have?
It is, of course, from the autopsy of the person portrayed in the waxwork, the killer known as the Professor.
The professor's... The man was a capital offender, so...
That's right. This is the certification of death that was drawn up after the convict's execution. Someday I'll read words correctly when they're on the screen. The identity of the killer was never made public, so the report gives few details. But what's important is the name of the coroner who wrote it. Courtney Stevens. Oh my! Courtney Stevens!
Strike a light!
It appears that the professor's autopsy was conducted by Dr. Sithe 10 years ago. And a few days ago, Mr. Drebber very deliberately stole the waxwork of the professor from Madame Tussaud. A waxwork that doesn't, in fact, resemble the victim, Mr. Asman, at all. What are we cooking here? I don't know what we're cooking here. There's some unsavory relationship between these events? Absolutely. I'm sure of it. There's no doubt in my mind that the professor case is at the heart of a link we have yet to uncover. Between Dr. Courtney Sithe and Mr. Enoch Drebber. Maybe Enoch Drebber blackmailed Courtney Sithe somehow? Like she faked the professor's death, and he's blackmailing her for that to get her to do what she... But she doesn't seem like an innocent person being blackmailed. She seems like a villain. Hidden links, mysterious connections, secret relationships. This is all most extraordinary. We surely oblige now to explore this further. Well, that was easy. I mean, we still have to get like 3 more people to flip their votes, but, well, hopefully 2.
Wasn't like this in my day, but we're still here to uphold justice to the end.
Good on him for not being like, there's no way she did it, and refusing to change it. No rigorous proof the wax was ever inside the bird. Man, you claimed the whole instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a trick.
That I did. The But there's more than one way to pull a rabbit out of a hat, isn't there?
Sorry?
I grant you, given that this cage appeared from amidst an explosion, there'd have been no need to use a real person. But if a waxwork had been used, the culprit could have at least had the decency to make it look like the victim.
I'm not sure exactly how much criminals are governed by decency.
The point is, if you're going to make a claim about that waxwork being inside the birdcage, you need to give us some evidence. Without that, it's just not science.
I suppose we should expect nothing less than a logical argument from a fellow of the Royal Society. That perhaps means his mind could be changed if we manage to present suitable evidence. Evidence the waxwork was inside the birdcage. Hold on. We've got the birdcage in our evidence log. That's not true. The waxwork was inside the cage. Have I examined this yet? The waxwork mod. There's nothing to click on. Oh. This is locked. Doesn't look very strong, does it? Or it does look strong? I didn't... Okay, whatever. There's definitely no way you could remove the mask yourself if it was put on you. That's me talking. Okay, brain? Alright, wake up, wake up! Get some more booze in me! Ah! What a terrible way to treat someone, even a convicted criminal. I know, it's starting to make me livid, actually. I mean, just think about it. Imagine if you had an itch on your cheek all of a sudden. You'd be utterly helpless. Okay, this is not relevant. Okay, weird. Alright. Is this his award? I guess. Wait. Okay, photograph. This is such a blurry photograph. Look at this photograph. I don't think I do have evidence. I'm gonna say no and press the other statements. We have no such evidence at the present time.
That much was abundantly clear before that brassy proclamation, I assure you. Oh, well, now you can just stumble through the words until you find the right one. And why you can't count, you can't, fuck it.
Next line.
You can count on the fact that I shan't be changing my leaning. You can count on the fact that I shan't be changing my leaning.
That proclamation was even brassier than yours, Mr. Naruto. And longer, too. Bro got a stroke. Stroke in the courtroom. Oh god, the corn kid. Why have you brought that corn in here?
Colonel Cobb? He's been going back in the farm. Picked him off on my way to town. He's a proper nibbler, he is.
Stop. I need Snapchat to stop giving me notifications about old photos I took 4 years ago. I don't care. Yes, the nibbling seems to be taking quite a while. Maybe you could wait until after the trial. Ooh, I don't like the sound of that. You need colonels at times like these.
Whenever I've something big to decide, the colonels always point me in the right direction, see?
Why is this child on the jury? I bit the pretzel too hard. I bit it in half. I was like biting on it like it's like the corn cob, and I bit it in half. Nibble, nibble. No, no, go, never not. It moved forward without me. Is this relevant at all? Why are we still doing this? Okay, I'm not talking to the frickin' corn kid anymore. Honestly, the only reason I talked to them is because there was that one case where it was one of the guys was on the stand, and I'm like, okay, nothing he's saying has to do with anything. And then talking to him ended up being the key that I needed to like connect to another thing. But I don't know. You should see what additional information you can glean from the jurors' minds, and all you got from her is corn. Do I have evidence to prove the waxwork was in the birdcage? Wait, it's the camera, because there's staining on the beddos. There's staining visible on the beddos. That's right. No, Q is pressed. God, the buttons are weird.
There's more than one way to pull a rabbit out of a hat, isn't there?
I have evidence. Also, pretzel in my teeth. Look at this thing that I'm about to show you.
I must warn you that I firmly believe it's only wise to trust men in white coats. So given your jet black outfit, I don't mind admitting to a sense of trepidation here.
You're in a black coat. Looking in the mirror must be very trying. Yeah, okay. Where's the camera?
Take that!
Let me start by showing you this. Look at this camera.
It's an unimpressive opening, if I'm honest.
What? But there's stains on it from blood from the...
It's already apparent that what comes next is equally disappointing, Counsel.
What? How is it not that? Wait, hold on. If the waxwork of the professor was inside the second birdcage, I would assume that means it must have crashed onto the crystal tower. The hints. Alright, hold on. Let's try it again.
I only trust men in white.
Evidence that the wax figure crashed. The head. Because its head is gone? No, it's this, because this was in the folds of the clothing of the Professor Wax. Go.
What's that? A piece of glass. No, it's unusually thick for glass. Just like my shit. Fuck. Can I go to the bathroom? I think I just shit my pants.
I don't know what this bit is. I'm just trying to... I took too big of a bite and I'm stalling. As you say, it's not ordinary glass, though. It's very thick and clearly made for extra strength. Much like the special glass that was developed for the construction of the Crystal Tower.
The Crystal Tower? Holy smoke!
That was supposed to be like a steam train going off, but it just sounded like a horse whinnying. That was not my initial intention, but here we are. Ugh. Exactly, the centerpiece of the Great Exhibition, where the very incident that we're talking about took place. On the day in question, the birdcage fell from above and smashed through a window of that special glass. That special thick glass.
From whence this small piece originated.
She's just gonna be a horse. Now that clear evidence in support of the assertion has been placed before you, what do you say? Do you change your vote?
Well, as I said, I only trust men in white coats as a rule. However, when the reasoning is sound, it's fair to say color shouldn't come into it. Color, with a U. In light of what you've shown me here, yes, I feel obliged to change my position on the matter.
In that case, juror number 4, you will amend your statement now, please.
The presence of that piece of glass leaves me in little doubt that the waxwork was indeed inside that birdcage.
Now, who was it that said they didn't believe the waxwork was in the birdcage? You're useless. You're... Which statement was that? No, there is no statement that... What? Huh? What? Yeah, I know, and? Thank you for reconsidering your position, sir.
Your words are misplaced, boy. My opinion is governed by logic and science and nothing else. Yes, science is where you should direct your words of gratitude. What's the matter with you? Too good to say some words of thanks to the mother of all...
Can I go home now? Alright, Corn Girl is the opposite of useful. Who is this contradicting with? Is it you? I don't... None of these... All we did was prove the waxwork was inside the birdcage. His statement still doesn't, like, contradict any of the other ones. I hate juror cross-examinations.
Objection.
Miss Susato, no one is listening. Perhaps this would be a good opportunity to have a rethink then? Fear not, my learned friend. I heard every sorry word. He's gonna give me a strike, even if no one else is paying attention. Goofy, odd jury. They always are. They always are a goofy, odd jury. Like, I don't think there's a single jury in any of these games that doesn't have, like, at least one member that, like, should not be there. Like, oh, there's a clear conflict of interest. Or, oh, you're a child. Or, oh, you're not even a British citizen. They're not always... There was a Russian guy on the stand once. Like, it's just... It's just... what do I... It's all the same dialogue I've already read. You're wrong there. That's right, oh. Oh, is that... Okay, worthless. Let's press U and go through the rest of your statement without the cop interrupting you. If you trust the police, we will have trouble. But here you are claiming this model was stolen to star in an illusory spectacular. The idea is so wild, I think I will take my chances and believe the authorities. Okay, so it's you. I need to turn you against the other guy. Yeah. This whole jury seems like cartoon characters, especially the horse and the horse. Okay, so this guy's like a scientist of some kind. I think he's with the, like, Royal Academy of Science. He just is funny looking. They're all cartoon characters. Those two statements are fundamentally... But they're... I am the foreman of the jury and the listening! I heard every sorry word of that one, too. Why? I'm so confused. Please, sir, can you amend your statement to include that because the whole reason this guy doesn't believe me is because he thinks the waxwork model being stolen is too ridiculous. But we have proof the waxwork model was in the... So confused. I'm so confused. Yes, and I say it just... What do I press this against? There's only one statement I haven't pitted against statement 4, and it's Corn Girl. There's no way that this is the answer. Like, how does Corn Girl contradict his statement? At all.
Hold it!
Alright, Corn Girl.
Hold it!
Do you have any new dialogue? Nibble, nobble, guilty, bobble. Nibble, not guilty, out. Nibble, nobble, guilty, bobble. Nibble, not guilty, out. The ramblings of an insane person. The corn! The corn speaks! There really is a reason why okay. Nibble, nobble, corn bubble. Nibble, nobble, guilty, out. Screw it, hold on. Fine, let's try pitting horse against corn girl. Horse guy against corn girl. I don't know how, like, these are not related in any way, but... Those two why did the music stop? How is that right? If you could put down your corn for a moment, juror number 5. The corn girl didn't say anything! You pointed out that it's wrong to make an accusation without evidence. But we have evidence? That's so stupid. That's such a leap. Nibble nobble. Nibble nobble. Guilty. Out. I don't understand much besides Colonel Cobb, to be honest. To strangle the child.
If I could interject here, I believe the corn is trustworthy, and we should follow it. It's just science. Be wrong of me as a man of science.
Why didn't you do what about what I said to the corn girl made you change your decision then? Please explain it to me. Me too then. I guess I'll change my vote. The corn says I should change my vote. I don't like these jury members. I don't like them. Success, if you can call it that.
Thank you, counsel. That will do. Two jurors now called guilty.
Like, how did we convince Corn Girl to change her vote before we convinced Magician Guy who hates the police? That doesn't make sense. They should have just given me a little bit of magician dialogue. They should have just... The magician should have been the one to conflict with the old scientist guy, not the stupid corn kid.
Accordingly, the court has failed to reach a consensus at this time, and the trial must continue.
We did it. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Another wonderful victory.
Waxwork of the Despicable Me character grew.
I don't know why I said that. A waxwork of the Despicable Professor.
Used as a body double for the victim in this quite extraordinary case. I must say, it's extremely hard to believe the assertion could possibly be true. However, it would appear that it does at least warrant further investigation. It's the waxwork of the professor that links Mr. Drebber and Dr. Sithe. And I'm convinced that there's a special significance to that link. I don't know what you're hoping to prove, lad. I really don't.
The truth, sir, by using evidence and testimony. If the court is to delve deeper into the alleged involvement of the waxwork in this case, then the prosecution calls for the owner of the model to be summoned as a witness.
Let's go! Let's go! Hot French girl. It's time for her to be the witness. Let's go.
Wood. Wood time. Madam Two Spoons. Wood. But put her on the stand.
Very well, I concur. Make arrangements for Madam Two Spoons to appear as a witness with immediate effect.
Listen carefully, my learned friend. Oh, yes? You should know that you're on the brink of opening Pandora's box. Do you know how much horny fan art there will be of this character that is about to appear? We're giving them room for more. The what?
The court shall now adjourn for 45 minutes.
45 minutes? That's how long it takes to get you? Madam Two Spoons, yes. I shall see to her at once, see to it at once, my lord. To be continued. I may have missed up a couple streams because since when was there a hot French woman? She showed up earlier in this case. She's the one who made the waxwork models. She's a descendant of a line of, so basically she's a waxwork model maker that only makes, why is that so loud? She only makes waxwork models of dead people, and she comes from a family line of waxwork makers that started during the French Revolution, where her, like, great-grandmother or something made waxwork models of, like, executed people in the French Revolution after they died, using their corpse as models. She's a fun character. And she's hot.
Ah, the knight-errant himself!
Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Sholmes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Literally, I can't sit still in these trials. But they are fascinating affairs, as a spectator, at least. I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself. Is this the first time he's, like, woken up on time to show up?
I have to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's this professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I've ever met before. Who even is he?
You were in Germany already 10 years ago. Yes, the professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heart felt sympathies. As it turns out, Lord Von Zieks is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realized, isn't he? So since you missed the last stream, I'll just tell you, the professor killed Von Zieks' brother. He's an old killer from years ago. And that's kind of become a big subject in this case. His great friend from university in the dock. And the scientist guy you just saw that talks like this is Von Zieks' old college friend. So Von Zieks is very, very involved. The game is recapping all of this for me, so I didn't need to explain it. A waxwork of the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaper failed to see that kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that in front of the man. You make it sound deliberate. I can't help feeling that the professor case is really very puzzling. Oh yes? In what particular manner? Well, there's Mr. Drebber, Dr. Sithe, and Lord Von Zieks. It's seems that everybody in the trial has a link to that case somehow. Yes. In fact, I, alone, am not a member of the set. Oh, that leaves me as an empty set, all alone with no intersection to any other. Excuse me. Who is this? Oh, it's you. This is the coroner. This is not the hot French one. She is a wood, though. Dr. Sithe. Ah, Dr. Courtney Sithe, Stevens. Good day to you. Hello, Sean. That was very shrewd of you. What in particular, pray? You requested the 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? Oh, I forgot Sholmes gave me the autopsy report from the professor that had her name on it. That was actually... Why would you assume such a thing? Because Gregson told me. Well, then that's a fair assumption. To think she is a wood, though. I hate that I know exactly. To think it's been... God, I need to get off TikTok. To think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory, wielding my scalpel. I smell of nothing but corpses and disinfectant. A policeman on the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Sithe. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. I'm hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. Well, that certainly won't be possible. Lord Von Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Strongheart, you sussy man! The Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. I feel like the Professor's actual identity is anonymous. I get the feeling the Professor is like... He's almost it's almost definitely some member of law enforcement, perhaps someone very like high up on the, and that's why perhaps even someone who's still alive that we've met. Attempting to hide from the truth, that's cowardice. I've always fought crime in the way I see fit. I've no regrets, none at all. Is it the snake on her hand there? She's so evil. She's so evil. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. I'm almost wondering if her husband is the professor, because we don't actually know who Mr. Sithe is. She mentioned it too. This Pandora's box. It wasn't the horny fan art of Madame Tussauds. It was the professor case. There's really no cause for concern. I assure you, when the trial resumes, the meaning will become all too apparent, whether you'd like it to or not. Huh? See, even Sholmes knows stuff about the Professor case that he's not telling us. I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah, yes, one word of warning before I go. If, in the course of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Oh, right, I understand. Thank you. Good. I shall make myself scarce, then. I purchased a bar of caramel earlier, and I shall be gnawing on that as you gnaw away at the truth. What did that warning from Mr. Sholmes really mean, I wonder? What big lore drop are we about to get on us, basically? It's time for the final chapter, man. The final chapter of this case, that is. I'm determined to find the truth, no matter what. I started this game, like, over a year ago at this point. I've taken my sweet ass time with this Great Ace Attorney collection. But it's because it's so good. It's so juicy. I don't want to finish it all so quick. Like the waxwork just sitting there.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue?
The prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord. The defense is also ready.
As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition.
Here's a recap for if you missed the streams.
Yet we now find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation.
As seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord.
So then, let us begin our exploration of the defense's assertion that the waxwork was cardinally involved in this murder. Lord Von Zieks?
My lord.
Are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Two-Spills? We took a 45-minute break. She better be here.
She is in the antechamber as we speak and ready to be summoned.
Very well. Bring in the bring in the witness.
At once, my lord.
Bailiff, show Madame Two-Spills to the stand.
Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Drebber is responsible, as I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice, a Dr. Sithe. And what connects the pair of them is the waxwork. Yes, the model of the professor. Can you explain all that in Fortnite terms? So the Twisted Towers got this incident started at when the Twisted Towers got airdropped on with a corpse inside. And now we're going back to Season 1 of Fortnite to investigate the builder. I don't know. The best I could do was comparing the Crystal Tower to the Twisted Towers. It's a tenuous link. This is the hot French girl. She's busy sculpting Herlock Sholmes. State your name and occupation for the court, please. My name is Madame Esmeralda Two-Spills. I am a waxwork artisan, and the proprietress of the Madame Two-Spills Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon me for working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon. Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there are two of them in the world. Why is his head so big? What expression is she carving onto that face? A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this? Oui, that is true. At first, we believed it had been kidnapped.
A waxwork model? Kidnapped?
Wood. Also wood. Yes, my lord. There was a demand for ransom money left behind by the culprit. However, according to what I have just been told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand that it was utilized as a substitute for the body of a murder victim. At present, that is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. Sholmes definitely told her all of that information. That's funny. This is the victim of the case in question, Mr. Odie Asman. But of course, I know him well. He is a part of my Odious Personages exhibit. His name is Odie. Yeah, this is the pun. It's the pun I named the exhibitor on. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Asman does not resemble the professor at all. Yes, but perhaps their faces are very similar? Are you suggesting that we should now see the dismasked visage of the professor? Shh. I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock. This is absurd! Pardon? I don't know what face you've carved under your fancy figure beneath that mask, but clearly it won't be that of the actual killer.
Indeed. The man's identity was never made public, after all.
The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There is no possible way that a repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that information. Well, Dalmont, it would seem you are unaware of the two spells principles. She's got a cool little witchy theme, too. The family two spells has always prided itself on sculpting its models a la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voila, our principles. There is a well-known legend about the two spells waxworks from the time of the French Revolution. Yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier, the backstory. A member of the two spells family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Oui, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct. The model is on display still today in the House of Horrors. We two spills will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects.
Dear me, somewhat disturbing tenacity of purpose.
It is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations. Do you mean to say, beneath that mask? Oui, the true visage of the killer is there.
That is ludicrous. It's out of the question.
The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain. As a result, Sir Madame Two-Spell's special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer, emerging from his own grave. It is a sight to behold. You should come.
I think, madame, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on this matter. You will explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in its creation.
With pleasure.
I'm gonna change the stream title real quick to interviewing hot French lady. Interrogating hot French lady in Great Ace Attorney. I can't type. Interrogating hot French lady in Great Ace Attorney. Save.
The Professor Waxwork. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumored such society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with Two-Spell's family principles.
Hold on.
An impression of the visage was taken directly from I read this already, yes. Let me just... Yeah. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night.
I just thought of something. She kind of looks like a Little Witch Academia character. That's not what I thought of. I read that in chat. What if they used the waxwork model to fake the professor's death? And now they're using it here to fake another death. What if Odie Asman was the professor and they just killed him? Like just now.
As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered. I feel like it's not that simple, though.
The gravedigger! The man sanctioned this?
Oui, I will do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance my family is celebrated for. Nobody else knew. Only the gravedigger. What harm did it do, huh?
So if she's telling the truth, then the theory I just spouted is not the case, but she could be lying.
So you truly saw it? The face of that monster? was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But Tuspers would not be Tuspers if we did not insist on absolute fidelity to our sculptures.
I don't believe this. I myself have seen the special exhibit at your museum, man. A truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave.
The scene it depicts was the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time. This special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article. It was the most detailed account. Is this stuff over here important? Was the bell mask to blame for the Great Blaze? Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. So this is what happened with the professor, Mr. Drebber, Mad Sheep Rampage. The Great Stink. This is the only, this other article over here, we can see the full thing of. Almost makes me feel like that's going to be important for something. Maybe not in this case, but the 10-year-old article has been entered into the court record. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words. The public enjoy absurdity, monsieur. That is why I have reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum. And it's a waxwork from that exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it? Oui, that is correct. The professor you see before you here.
Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination.
This waxwork links Drebber to Dr. Sithe. And there has to be some reason for that, which hasn't yet come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Sithe and Drebber were in on this crime together. Cross-examination. The Professor Waxwork. We've already been going for an hour. I feel like there's still at least, there is still at least an hour and a half of this case left. If not, probably closer to 2, maybe 3, I don't know. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse. Is it that true of every waxwork in your museum, then? It is. Assuming the subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know. What sort of letters? When my time comes, please make a waxwork of me. Cometa. This is how criminals are remembered. They're like, make a waxwork of me. That's interesting. My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a waxwork is an honor. And for some criminals, a symbol of status, even. Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax. And it is thanks to one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of the special exhibit, of course, the professor. There are no exceptions to the principles of two spoons. I enlisted the aid of the grave. Surely that's illegal, isn't it? It would seem the proprietress of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed. It had nothing to do with money. The man is part of London's criminal history. That is why I had to sculpt him, to record this history. It is the reason d'etre of the Tuspers Museum. But if the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know the killer's true identity. I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the professor. Do you realize what you're saying? The professor's identity is a national secret. One that even I don't know the answer to. I feel Von Zeeks is doing all of this to find out the professor's identity. I guarantee it. The professor killed his brother. I understand. And now that the truth about this special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close. Of course it will. As will your entire museum if you don't tread very carefully, madame. That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think. Don't you?
So 10 years ago, on the night of the professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse.
Oui, exactement. I hid myself until they gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time.
Why were you there for a very long time? You were there longer than you expected to be?
I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open, and I had some problems with the chin.
Dare I ask?
The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. His muscles were relaxing, and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought. Under normal circumstances, I would have an assistant with me. However, that night, I was alone, and as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time.
What do you mean?
When I take the impression of the visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after the death.
Why 3 hours? Is that amount of time significant?
It is because of rigor mortis.
A wriggly notice? Rick and Morty?
It's the name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours, the entire body is completely...
So she wants the muscles stiffened but not inflexible, so she can use it. Her thing's like screwed up, but it just adds to the appeal. Like girl who makes waxwork models of corpses. That's the character.
From that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. That effect is often used to estimate the time of death when a body is discovered.
Huh, so that's what rigor mortis actually is? Interesting.
As the mademoiselle says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death, and it starts in the jaw. I see. So that's why you wait. Before that time, the mouth falls open, and it is very difficult to do my work.
It's getting hard for me to do my work.
It's significant somehow. Include it in your formal testimony, please. Can't help feeling that after this latest topic, the atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave.
Just crickets. This is no time for jokes, Miss Susato. Madame, kindly amend your testimony.
Discussed. Benson? It took me a very long time because it was before the onset of
Hold it!
But you were there till dawn? What was the time of day then, approximately?
Well, I could not say. But when I left the cemetery with my utensils and my wax, the morning light was becoming visible. The execution took place on 17th June, which had the earliest sunrise of that year.
Indeed it did. First light would have been around 4:40 in the morning. How do you remember the exact time that would have...
That really is early. The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work in half an hour. And it was necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe. So I had to hurry.
Is it me, or does Mr. Sholmes seem to be taking shape more quickly now, too? You certainly appear to something. I didn't read it. Certainly appear to go to extraordinary lengths for your work, madame. Sure, it's significant. It's all significant. Add it to the testimony. There's some kind of timing thing here that is important.
A sunrise at 4 in the morning would be absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it?
It's not quite what I meant by significant.
hurry to finish my work in the half hour before sunrise. Hold on. Where's the newspaper article we just got? Intern professor. My theory is that Two Spools was there when this scene happened. What the hell? Oh, Asmund. Odie Asmund drew this? Or wrote this article? What? Alright, well that's gonna come up later. I just noticed that. Oh, Asmund right there. What the hell? That's the victim. Wait, what? Wait, this is new lore. So the professor crawls out of the grave. Mr. Drebber sees it. We knew that. The young man who witnessed the scene was on the verge of raising a shriek when, in the next section, a gunshot rang out. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. Did we have this information before, that after emerging, he was then shot? I'm not sure we did. Huh. Interesting. I'm looking... Ooh, here we go. Here's what I was looking for. A time. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight. So if it was midnight, why did she not have the chance to dig up the body till 4? I mean, I guess that makes sense. It would have taken them a couple hours to bury it. So there's not necessarily a contradiction there.
Hold it!
Wait, yes there is. He should have been rigor mortis already. Because it's 3 hours. She should have been perfectly in the time window. Wait a minute. If the execution happened at if he died at midnight and she was there at 4 in the morning, there shouldn't have been rigor mortis at all.
Objection!
Madam Two Spools. I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows. And is that a problem? I believe it is, because your testimony and a particular detail in the report completely contradict one another. What? Are you going to explain yourself, my Nipponese friend? According to her testimony, Madame Two Spools was creating her wax impression just before dawn, and at that time rigor mortis had not yet set in. Am I correct so far, madam? You are, yes. As I said, the stiffening of the jaw is the first sign of rigor mortis 2 or 3 hours after death. But the man's chin was limp, so he cannot have been dead for a long time. But on the other hand, if you look at Dr. Sithe's report, it quite clearly states the following. Death by hanging, confirmed at midnight, 17th June. Dr. Sithe is lying! Dr. Sithe is sus! No. If the professor indeed died at midnight that day, then by the time you were sculpting his face, rigor mortis would have already set in. Oui. Yes, you are right. The chin, it would have been completely stiff. In other words, this report is wrong.
Objection!
No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea is absurd. In that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. Impossible! Dun 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 dun.
Order! Counsel, this is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. Sithe, but you also implicate members of staff at Barclay Prison where the execution took place.
The professor's death was a big frickin' cover-up.
Objection!
And that something about the Odie Asmund's death. he drew that thing in the article. Odie Asmund's death was to cover up the cover-up, wasn't it? My learned friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact. What fact? The professor died that night. Without question. He did. Of course he did. I moved the man's limped jaw with my own hands. Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows? Didn't die at... Are you insane? He died from the gunshot after arising from the grave. They buried him, he got out, somebody shot him. What? What exactly are you suggesting did happen in that case? It's almost impossible to believe, but it would explain the link between Dr. Sithe, the professor, and that one other person of interest. I have evidence that will explain exactly what I think happened. It's the newspaper, right? It's gotta be the newspaper. What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. You're suggesting it was a corpse coming back from the dead now. Well, if this article is to be believed, yes. The professor, assumed dead following his execution, emerged from his grave and was killed again.
Objection!
Don't be a fool. That's simply a rumor published by the gutter press. Can you be certain of that? Are you serious? The point is, as the article says, there was a witness to what happened.
My word! Yes,
Indeed. Oui, the young man who stole into the cemetery by chance that night.
Objection!
Of course there was a witness. The story didn't write itself. But obviously the man made it all up.
and in any case, this was 10 years ago. There would surely be no hope of...
They don't even realize that Drebber is the witness? We all know this witness well. What?
Are you suggesting, Counsel, that you identified the person in question, that you know who claims to have seen these utterly incredible events take place?
Yes, Michael. In fact, you could say he's right here before my very eyes. Who is the alleged witness? Where's Drebber? Madame Two Spills is 26, by the way. Just for those curious about her wood status. I forgot about this kid. This was an annoying character. You know, he was funny. He was fun. This was another, like, cartoon meme character from an earlier testimony. It's Drebber. It's Enoch Drebber. The man in question is Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Drebber? The previous witness?
The special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork recreates that decade-old scene in great... Perfect. Yes, exactly. She's not too young. Too old. Just old enough to be mommy. I'm gonna stop talking now. The condemned criminal... and start reading. I'm gonna stop talking and start reading. The condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man is a 10-year younger Mr. Enoch Drebber. I forgot that information didn't come out, like, sooner.
Order! Surely not, Counsel.
Drebber was there, in Lowgate Cemetery. What is all this talk about Mr. Drebber? Is the name significant? Do you know Drebber? He was the grave digger. If she were 40, then we'll die. Of course, Madame Tuspel doesn't know, does she? Extremely significant. What situation? The theft of the Professor Waxwork was perpetrated by the very same man. No! But that would mean... Madame Tuspels. It would appear you know the name. Enoch Drebber. It all comes back to the name Enoch Drebber, dude. Yes, I know it. But from long ago in the past. What? The Enoch Drebber lore continues! Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know. Yes, of course. More lore about Enoch? The story of the young man and the terrible sight he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, in In all of the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed.
Just like the name of the professor was never revealed. No wonder Aaron thought this was just a rumor.
That is, apart from in one newspaper. Oh, really? One newspaper did mention his name. The Daily Circus. It is the paper from which comes the article I have already shown in court.
You're saying that his full name was only publicized in that article? Goodness me, yes, here it is. The university student who experienced this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Drebber, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of its student dorms. Unbelievable.
It's on this. Oh yeah, it's right there in the bottom corner. His name's right there in the bottom corner on this piece of evidence. When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night would make a perfect exhibit for my house of horrors, whether it was the truth or not.
So she didn't care whether he was telling the truth. She was just like, I've already made the waxwork model of the dead guy. Let's make a waxwork model of Drebber. And then, yeah.
He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork.
That's not that much.
And since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of terror from the cemetery.
£5? You kind of ripped him off.
Yeah, like, I'm sure you've made far more money than that off this heinous exhibit. So 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he'd witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death, re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote. Soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So there must have been some other reason to steal the... Brings us to 3 days ago when the birdcage crashed into the Crystal Tower. If the birdcage had in fact contained not the body of Mr. Asman, but that same waxwork, the coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated, Dr. Sithe, would have noticed immediately. And yes, she submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court had seen earlier.
Oh. Drebber used the waxwork figure as like a message to her to blackmail her. Right? Because she covered up his death somehow.
Because the waxwork was that of the professor. You're saying that's why she would help him? Dr. Sithe put her name on a document confirming the death of a condemned criminal who was still alive. The criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the button. To send a message.
Yo, this is sick.
My lord, this court must summon Dr. Sithe to the stand. The defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected.
But according to the missive I received this morning through the prosecutor's office, Dr. Sithe is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case?
She told us so herself, didn't she? Lord Von Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Frickin' Strongheart, dude. Something happened on the night of that killer's execution 10 years ago. And surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Von Zeeks. prosecution calls for the instructions in that missive to be scrapped.
But Lord Von Zeeks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's.
The assigned prosecutor has the final say on policy in any particular trial. In other words, me. Yes. Von Zeeks wants to know who the professor, or like figure out what happened with the professor.
Let Enoch Drebber and Dr. Sithe
both take the stand together. He's just working with us now. Like, straight up.
Order! Order! Very well. I will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect, addressed to Dr. Sithe of the Forensic Investigation Team.
I didn't think it would take an hour and a half to get to her testify. I didn't think Two Spools was going to testify in between. I mean, I'm not complaining about more Madame Two Spools, but... She's still here. Let's go!
Madame Two Spools is still here! Let's go!
Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Sithe. I'm disappointed in you, Lord Von Zeeks. You've completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office. Betrayal is not in my nature, as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter who it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt. Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. I don't remember what voice I gave him at all. I don't think I couldn't decide what voice to give. And Dr. Sithe, as the investigating coroner, why does that sound wrong? Coroner. You were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime.
And where's your evidence?
At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago. You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes, and officially pronounced him dead.
I love the Sholmes head just shaking over here as she paints it.
So fun. Is that so? According to the newspaper reports, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time. And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Sithes. A secret so profound it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact. Mr. Drebber, tell the court, tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night. We still have to prove, like, why he would murder Odie Yasmin in the first place. There's still a lot of ground to cover. You can see the resemblance, actually, can't you? With the man in Madame Tuspel's, I mean. Surely he's not going to claim that's really what he saw, especially not after all these years. He was a research student at the University of London, was he? I don't know why I have this voice. Bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me.
I forgot he does the anime villain laugh.
What an interesting twist. When at the time not one person would take me seriously. I'm having a bad day. It's about time that I get my way. Steamrolling whatever I see.
Huh. Despicable Drebber.
Yet now here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters. And in the court of law, I've been holding on to that joke for a little while. I found a good place to use it. I'm having a bad day. That's about time that I kicked my way. Let me be frank. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth. These two look like... These two look like they go together. Yeah, like, dude, they just look like a pair of woods together. Wooden.
So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please.
Despicable attorney.
You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery.
I'm having a bad day. It's about time that I get my way. Ah, despicable. In the cemetery 10 years ago. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Bull crap. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Really? Wait. Oh, because then you're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course. You'd have to have a screw loose if you believed a corpse could come back from the dead. But, so, you're saying this article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that describes it perfectly. Yes. If the details in the article aren't true... I like Drebber's theme. It reminds me of a Donkey Kong. It's very Donkey Kong 64. It sounds like a Donkey Kong 64 like Frantic Factory or something. It nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Sithe would have been working together. So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument?
Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate?
That's right. Grave robbing, to be precise. What, you just said you were What, you were grave robbing? As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghost of condemned convicts.
Grave robbing? That was not what I expected when I asked you that question.
Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead. So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge of society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name. The Repurposers.
That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir.
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I see. Oh. Wait a minute. Who drew the illustration for this article? Ah, yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I did it. The reporter who exposed him was Odie Asman. That's why he killed Odie Asman. Grant Kirkhope type beat. Exactly. This song is a Grant Kirkhope type beat. Ah, yeah. Well, there's the motive for killing Odie Asman right there. Because his name's on the article. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done. Claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish. Very foolish.
Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed to the cross-examination now.
Hold it!
Spot of moonlighting show is in the Why do you mean grave robbing, don't you? Surely you only need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer for that. The lantern and spade. But who on earth would want to buy a dead body? Any major hospital? A hospital? In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science. But there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we made surreptitious arrangements with the hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand. You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences. Did you like that one? See what I did there? We students were caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research. Professor Harebrained said exactly the same. I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you've revealed this abhorrent behavior. Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Lowgate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected it to end the way it did. That, I regret to this day. The illustration was based on what I witnessed.
Hold it!
A strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf. But they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead. I started big with the London News. Unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reported from the gossip lads, the gutter press, that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale. The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets. And yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories. What about the article in the Daily Circus? That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night. And from your description, he drew this illustration. Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporters told me so. I had no idea myself, you see. So the other outlets that he interviewed didn't even mention. That's weird. The scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate, then. Well... thinking back now, I realize I never actually saw... And this is where it's bullshit. What are you talking about? I think I explained already, didn't I? Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So it was... Among Us! Among Us! Among Us! So it was renowned among us! For being haunted by the ghost of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night. And as a result, only too willing to believe the nonsense about the dead coming back to life. But you said you actually saw it. I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, a resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Innocent. You have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night? Is there any material evidence? If we have anything at all, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, this is the irritatingly backtracking state. So this is clearly the contradiction. Just gotta see if I... can you stop robot shaking back there? I'm trying to do something. Is there a photo he took? There's not. Is there? Stop moving, dude. I feel like if I had evidence of that, I would have already presented it. So maybe I need to press some other statements and I'll get something. Tired of hearing his robot arms move.
Hold it!
That young woman that contacted you was Madame Tussauds, of course. Precisely. I must say I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later. As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article and the comic. I found a man. Yes, the article in the Daily Circus. Yes, we've gone over this. I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. The young lady put £5 in front of me. So you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display. I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded. Ah, oui, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day, n'est-ce pas? The camera? The camera's from the crime scene. Did you? I can't say I remember. Yeah, his camera! The camera on the wax figure is from the crime scene. Oh yes, I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion to any cemetery. You took a camera with you, sir? To what end? To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it. I see. But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my house of horrors. I'm very meticulous about such details. It is the Tussauds way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Drebber took with him to Logate Cemetery on the night in question. Interesting. Then perhaps the camera is the evidence that we need. I'm not sure how, though. The professor. So there's bloodstain on the camera, but that doesn't prove that he saw anybody, does it? Like, it's not like the camera came with a photo. I mean, let's try it, but I don't think that's going to be important later when we're trying to prove whose blood that is. Let's press the last statement. This article, you mean, published in the Daily Circus? Yes. Somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article. And carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result. Mon Dieu, I had no idea. And having been run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. So that's how he turned to, like, evil scientist mode, because of that incident. You combined your knowledge of science with your knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you used those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. But how does Odie Asmund connect to all this? Professor Albert Hairbrain's just the victim. Whatever are you talking about? Beep up! I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort. Sithe has stayed silent throughout all of this. What's Drebber up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim? I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now. What circumstances? Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Sithe's past that she would desperately want to hide. Yes, of course. If Drebber and Dr. Sithe are working together now, then if Drebber were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, like that. Now, how am I going to do that? I actually saw the professor at all. This whole first page of evidence is not going to be useful here, I'll tell you that right now. This is all for the current crime. It's not the camera, we already tried the camera. Mr. Drebber loses his remunerations? Oh, Asman. Yep, it's the exact same signature that's on the newspaper. But how, yeah, same O Asman. But how do we, like, get to that point?
Objection!
Present this. Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that. Don't believe what? That you never actually saw the professor. You did see the professor on that night, 10 years ago. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds. But I was there, and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging from a tomb, wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided that in the closed court's ruling, that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. Man, they really wanted to hide this guy's identity. He was wearing an iron mask while buried? And Madame Tussauds took that off to make her waxwork model? Wait a minute. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution or subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. He had to have been like a high-ranking government official or law enforcement officer or something. Obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard... See, I thought that was just like artistic interpretation. I didn't realize that was an iron mask. A lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. He claimed he didn't even know it was the professor initially. So that's proof. It's inconceivable. There's been proof all along that he was telling the truth. Everyone just ignored it. Order! Well, Mr. Drebber. Recalculating. It's a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. I love making robot noises. And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified. Which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, I'm... wine going down. I'm drinking it off camera. You can't see it. Amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes did. He hasn't picked up the bottle and thrown it once. Did I pour my drink for nothing? I mean, not for nothing, because I'm enjoying the drink. Pour a little more vodka in. We're gonna be drunk! We're gonna be drunk by the end of this stream! We're gonna be We're gonna be crunked up! God. I don't know what is crunked up? No one has ever said that in the... What? So he's still not conceding his point. Okay, interesting. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who had sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. What is Drebber cooking? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim? I wonder if perhaps I already read all of this. What, did that not progress anything? Wait, what? Why? Oh, okay. Here we go. He amended his testimony. I zoned out for after the crunk up bit, and I didn't read. Or maybe I did. Did I read it out loud? I don't know if I read it out loud, and I just didn't. Right, I was doing a he hasn't drank his wine yet bit. The bits. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work. Interesting. Fellow grave robber. What are you talking about? Sounds so interesting. But I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see. You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself. Many of the medical students do this. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity.
Objection!
Or protect, I don't know, who cares? The article goes on to say that in the next second a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired on one of them? What is this about a sexton? Who's a... what is... Oh, the gravedigger. That's what sexton means? If a gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news. Ah! Yes, well... I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by that reporter.
Excuse me!
There was a gunshot wound in the corpse and she saw it, right? She's like angrily poking Sholmes. Oh la la! Pardon. I was lost in my thoughts. Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way? I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber could claim this now. If you don't mind me saying, madam, what are you talking about? Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Oh, and he also told her about a gunshot, yeah. Including the gunshot. Stop! Abort! Abort mission! Stop! You might want to watch your tongue!
Objection!
Have a care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a wood. Grr. Please, Madam Two-Spills, carry on. Of course. I love when she does the shush. The shh. Very, very, very hot. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hits the condemned man. I said nothing of the sort! No, you were very explicit about the details. About the mask that the figure was wearing. Wait a minute, she's 26? Didn't they say this happened 10 years ago? This was a 16-year-old girl digging up corpses to make wax models of them. Giga Chad. I mean, it's the family business. The blood that splattered over you when he was shot. That's the blood on the camera. Shut up, woman! You're making this all up. Females! You shut up, female! You're making this all up as females are wont to do. Mr. Drebber, what was that deranged sexist rant you just did? Do you refute the account, or are you just being an asshole? I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on, hella sus. I know. Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my... Only based ones. Only based ones. I feel like I've made that joke before. Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this, witness. Very well. Von Zieks has said nothing. He's fully on my side. There was no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any spattering blood. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted and modeled me from wax. And I gave up. There was no gunshot, nor any spattering blood. Your camera says otherwise. Your camera says otherwise, Despicable Drebber. Despicable Drebber. Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera? But that is the camera from that fateful night. Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horror. It's the camera you took with you to the ceremony that night, Mr. Drebber. And is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forward on the end of some of bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. Much like the stain my wine leaves on the carpet when I spill it. After having too many glasses in the office. But I don't think that stain is wine. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows.
Good lord! Are you suggesting?
Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood. Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Is that right, Dr. Sithe? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all would be simple enough. I propose that Madame Tusspel's testimony was correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound. And that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. There's no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic event. You're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night. But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose then? Who could benefit? Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody.
My goodness! He's shielding someone? Error! Error!
This song is so good. Clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed.
Well, Count. Who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect?
Courtney Sithe, obviously.
Take that!
Sithe.
What? Whatever do you mean?
Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor.
That would be an unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean the execution never actually happened. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs! No one could escape, not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that this man did escape his hanging.
If that were really true, Counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up.
Well, I mean, it's not like the judiciary didn't know that it was a fake, right? It would just be her and whoever else helped concoct the, like, fake execution. And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Sithe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if that meant being complicit in a crime.
You mean?
I mean that Dr. Sithe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Edmund and fabricated the autopsy report. Oh yes, the wine's out. The wine's coming out. His grippers are out, boys. Pray forgive my freshly filled hollowed chalice, and a whole raft of other discourtesies now.
Goodness me!
It's just the sort of tall-tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead. A Scotland Yard cover-up. A conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Von Zeke's gonna make us uncover all the information. We don't know who shot him, so he's gonna pour another glass of wine. Pouring more vodka into my drink. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. Ugh. And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend? Considered what?
Consider this!
That was just a dream. Just a dream. Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary.
Quite. Or to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it.
To rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime, either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits, too. Yeah, that's the thing we still haven't figured out. Why would Drebber want to kill Asmund in the first place? He had nothing to gain from killing him, and in fact, he had something to lose from killing him. That being said, I think we already know the answer. Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asmund at all. The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim. The motive for this case runs deep. Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving. It's not about the research grant. It's about revenge. Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Is it the vodka that tastes bad or the... Yeah, it's the vodka flavor that isn't good. The soda I mixed with it is actually good. Mixed berry citrus vodka spritz. Gonna get a pizza, BRB. That's alright. I'm gonna refill my water real quick. Actually, it's a good time to do that. Oh no. Prebiotic soda. Prebiotic soda. Cherry limeade prebiotic soda. I don't know what this is. But it tastes good. Tastes less nasty than most sodas. Less of that fizz. I guess she is still on the stand. Like Two Spools is still here, but I'm not interrogating her anymore. She wasn't sus, thankfully. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country? At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright, who exactly was Asmund to Drebber? Going to have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. I mean, you could really just present the one signature on the newspaper article, but we do have another piece of evidence that is proof.
Take that!
The 2 signature. We have 2 identical signatures on 2 pieces of evidence. It's this newspaper article, my lord. That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? That drivel should never have been written! It's typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing! Yes, on its own it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, the identical signatures that are about to come up, because no, there's no way the 2 people sign things like this. The O and the loop next to the Asman. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Take that!
It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asman. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact, that proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? And that common link that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Asman. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these 2 pieces of evidence have in common. The signature,
Take that!
right there. What these 2 pieces of evidence have in common. It's a signature. A signature? The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? Emergency! Alert! Red alert! As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. Oh yes, the cornered thing. If you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom.
Let me see now. Good lord, yes!
Are identical. In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odie Asman. Error! Shut down imminent! Shut down imminent! But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asman? Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony.
A grave robbing, you say?
Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. We literally read this maybe half an hour ago. Think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. Did Odie Asman know when he was working with Enoch Drebber that he was working with the man who... That's so interesting. This single newspaper article changed your entire life.
Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he?
He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. Dun, 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 dun. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually, you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article written by Mr. Asman. See, I thought... My thing that I was wrong about is I thought Dr. Sithe was going to be a lot more, like, involved in the scheme. She really was just involved in the past cover-up and got blackmailed into helping him here. Like, she has no connection to Asman at all. Enough! Stop this endless drivel about my life. Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber. Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or other after all. Good gracious. Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Lowgate was the best thing that could have happened to me. Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do! Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? And I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? Fine, if you think you have evidence, then go ahead, show. It's his, like, trophy. He's got a trophies. He was not happy to leave the university. He's said otherwise. Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science?
What exactly is this trophy, Council?
It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade that recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future.
Good gracious!
Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. So maybe they agreed to work together on this time machine scam before, and then at some point he learned that it was the same guy and was like, is he actually going to admit it? Is that it? Did we figure it out? The truth is... Finally, he's going to fold. No, he's not. Hold it! Wait, what? Oh, Sithe, isn't it? She's gonna... Yeah. Fine. Clearly, this has run its course now. What? I admit it. All of it. Oh. Was that not what he was about to do? I feel like he was about to make up some other excuse. Like he pounded his fist on the table to cover for time. What?
What are you doing? Stop it! Abort! Abort!
It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. No.
Good
What you're saying, woman? It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Sithe, you will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago. Well, this didn't take as long to resolve as I thought it would. I didn't really prove... I didn't have to prove the little nitpicks of how he did it, really. Sithe. Oh, the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Like, she could have kept holding on for a little longer. Tried to avoid admitting it. Why on earth would you buckle now? Well, there's no point trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out. Even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about the execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished. So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything. Looks like his blackmail plan didn't work out well. Surely it goes without saying. You admit your part in it too, then. I admit nothing! At all! God damn it. What? Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. That's true. There's no way for us to... That's what we have not proved that he did it in any way. We, you know, Courtney Sithe just admitted to it, but, like, she didn't really do anything except, you know, just, like, cover for him. Like, she was the reason that we were dealing with the whole, like, the instantaneous kinesis machine. It did work. But it's like, no, the teleporter didn't work. She knew that. She was covering it up. What are they both do this hand pose. That's funny. Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Von Zeeks, yes? I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course. What was that evil smirk? I feel like there's still more there that we don't know. Like, we still don't know why the murder was covered up. We still don't know who her husband is. I feel like that's important. Maybe it's not. But, like, why bother with the name change, Courtney Stevens, Courtney Sithe stuff, if it wasn't important? I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. Oh. Huh. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harbury. Very true. It had slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends? As the court has heard, Dr. Sithe has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. Oh, interesting. See, we've never had this happen in Ace Attorney before, where it's like, we don't know 100% that the killer did it, but we have enough info to absolve the original defendant of guilt. I mean, personally, I think that has happened in an Ace Attorney trial before. The writers just never ended it there. They were always like, no, we're going to make you prove, like, not just that your client didn't do it, but who actually did it. This time, not making us prove who did it. They're just making us prove who didn't do it. Perhaps Drebber will be tried elsewhere in another case. At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? None, my lord. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. You've proven Professor Hairbrain's innocence. Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss? This was smooth. Almost too smooth, you know? Like, usually I have to whittle them down. But Sithe admitted to it. I feel like we're still gonna have to whittle down Drebber at some point, though. I don't know. This mystery feels very not over yet. About as not over as it could feel with us still catching the bad guy. Yeah, it doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Sithe suddenly admit it to it? Wait, what? This did cross my mind earlier, but maybe we're not done yet. Are we not done yet? Maybe Dr. Sithe was lying about how involved she was? Maybe she wasn't blackmailed? Maybe it was... The way the trial is set to end now, the judge will have to declare... will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. Is that really what we want? There's still more to learn. We could get our not guilty verdict now, but there's still more info. More juicy lore! More juicy lore! Objection. The defense needs the lore, my lord.
I beg your pardon?
We demand one final testimony.
What?
I'm pulling myself a full glass of wine.
You do realize I'm about to advocate in favor of your client, I presume.
What are you playing at now, my Nepalese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that. Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you cooking? The truth. The whole truth. And a way to bring it all out into the open. Right, duh. Yes, in hindsight. Ah yes, one word of warning before I go. If you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. There's more we need to know than this. What are they hiding? I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced this would happen. Yes, I'm in court to advocate for my client and to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. The way we usually do in these cases. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Sithe. Testimony from me? About what? About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber. Ha! In case it's escaped your attention, I have already admitted to everything I did. I don't think you have. The whole truth has not been revealed yet. The whole truth has not been revealed yet. That has not been revealed yet, and I think Von Zeeks agrees. Pray forgive my careless handling of that hollowed bottle. I slipped.
What is your objection, Lord Van Zeeks?
The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness. Let's go! Don't be stupid. If there is more to this case than has yet come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end. You'll what? Lord Von Zeeks. Dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-da-dum ba-da-dum.
This is most unregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Sithe, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber.
Aye. Very well. Witness testimony. The waxwork plot. It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene. She had the whole team frame him? They were all in on it? The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it. Once again, it's coming down to these state secrets that people are willing to just, like, not do their jobs to protect. In the first game, it was Gregson. And this one is... The stage and the machine were all specifically designed for the deception. So it seems, and all meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy. Mommy? 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 How old? Mother? How old is mother? How old is she? And what about this autopsy report then? Oh, how old is she? This is not important. 39. Who is the oldest person in this lineup? I forget Von Zeeks' young Strongheart. Okay, right. That makes sense. Gregson's number 2. All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption! Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. So her whole team was aware of it? That's crazy. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you.
We must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony was straightforward. It clarified everything. There's no particular need for cross-examination, I would say.
No, I disagree. Something's wrong. Look at that evil expression. She is still Sussy. She was not just blackmailed. She is sus. When the imposter is sus. When the imposter is more sus than they appear. I saw the waxwork and the nose. So you knew about the special construction of the stage, then? It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim and the waxwork. And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower. And the waxwork? I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time. And why were you given such directions? Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame Tussauds. I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage? Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still. I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. The body had to be arranged in certain ways. When you say arranged, I presume you mean with this. Yes, the instructions in the engineer's note said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Asma. So, you mean that was your doing? I fetched Hairbrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me, alone, to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen.
Alone, Doctor?
I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. Her daughter. She's lying. Her daughter was involved. She's covering for her daughter. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. And then you noted that in your fake autopsy was a fictitious cause of death. Exactly. So the actual cause of death was the trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop.
My word.
What is it, Miss Sussy? Something about Dr. Scythe's last statement. It's playing on my mind, that's all. Yes, mine too. Dr. Scythe. There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well. The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony. Oh, which part? What I want her to supplement the real cause of death or what she did to the victim. Let's look at this evidence. There's blood in the thing. What is her autopsy report versus Odie Asman, time of death, hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, so that's a lie. Why would she have added this part? If she was trying to cover up, why did she add the part about the broken vertebra? Weird. The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet. Fine, if that's what you want. Just stop yelling, please. The prosecution concurs. Very well. Yeah, I feel like she hesitated before dropping the cause of death. Dropping, because he dropped. I'm gonna try this.
Objection!
Surely something about that last statement seems off. Okay, that was a bit of a reach. My argument there would have been, if that was the cause of death, why did you write about it in the autopsy report? But, clearly that's not exactly what we're going for here. Wait, it was found... Okay, which cage is which? Is this the one that the body was in or the one that the victim was in? I don't remember. Is this the one the body was in or the one the waxwork was in? That's what I mean. This is the one that the waxwork was in, right? Yeah. Okay, here's what's confusing me. It says the screwdriver was poking through the grill in the base of what remains of the kinesis machine. But if she stabbed him with it down there, it shouldn't have been up at the spot where the explosion happened at all. Unless she went and put it up there after stabbing him. Could it be the other option? I feel like it might be the screwdriver, but on the other line of question.
Hold it!
Wait, but how do I get her to amend her testimony the other way? Can I? Can I even do that? Maybe if I go through it all again?
Hold it!
Gotta watch this part again. God, she's a baddie. Da, 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 da. Maybe we can add the other statement too? Or here we go, have her change it. Dr. Scythe, could you change your testimony to, like, sorry I messed up. Could you change your testimony to explain what you did to the victim's body? Yeah, because I think that's where the contradiction lies. If she stabbed the victim's body down there, why was the screwdriver found up on the stage?
Objection!
No? What? Okay, now I'm confused. I'm still gonna leave it on this one. Problem is there's two different statements. Stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. What's that? Is that a little blood stain there? I don't know what that is. Well, it's not. And I'm back with the pizza. Oh, did you go drive and get a pizza? I thought you just meant like I was at the door. You came back just in time to watch me be stuck on something again. Newspaper article recounting the tale of an eyewitness. Okay, no. Basically, I'm stuck. I'm either trying to prove that because she admitted to conspire. I'm pointing at my computer monitor, but you can't see it. She admitted to conspiring with him, and I'm either trying to counter this. There were two options for things to add to her testimony. I'm either trying to prove that she didn't plunge the screwdriver into the victim's chest as a cover-up, or I'm trying to prove that his actual cause of death was different from falling, which is what she said it was. I really don't. Let me try pressing some of these other statements, seeing if maybe there's something in these that will... The entire team? You use the entire team to pervert the course of justice? My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. We operate on a code of chivalry of sorts. You aid and abet a murderer, commit perjury, and dare talk of the chivalry? Wow, I sound so angry and not at all fake. It was a matter of priorities. What? Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. My team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. I consider their conduct exemplary. Her whole team's gonna get disbanded because of this. Don't concede the point, Mr. Naruhodo. You mustn't let her win. I'll take that silence as tacit acceptance. Now can we move on?
Hold it!
But at what cost? Faith in Scotland Yard is going to suffer a terrible blow as a result of this. And your precious secret is out now anyway. Yes, as you say. and I take full responsibility.
Blow me down, Dr. Scythe!
Oh right, the jury exists. After we did the jury cross, I think that was literally the first thing anyone on the jury has said since we did the jury cross-examination at the beginning of the stream. I feel like that existed because they needed one of those. They realized they hadn't put one of those in this case yet, and we're like, alright, we'll throw it in there before the Dr. Scythe testimony. I've done my utmost, believe me. In many ways, I respect your determination. Phew. I nearly froze under that cold stare as she said that. I do believe she was being genuine, though, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, this is hard. That's her story? She admitted everything and revealed her full involvement in the crime. I do wonder if there could really be much more to it. It's something about either the cause of death or her action. There's something odd. I feel sure they're still trying to hide something. I began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket, the actual body of the victim.
Hold it!
Let's try. We haven't pressed this one yet. So, from what you described, do you have any idea of who was behind it? There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer, so no, I had no idea. Yet despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it? I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern. But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all this. Yes, thank you, Lord Von Zieks. We've established that.
So, as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where then was the victim's body? And now we're back to the rest of it.
The actual body of the victim, beneath the experimentation stage. The victim's corpse for laying the top of the cage. The problem is, I can't even effectively, like, guess spam. Because there's two different versions of this statement that I can swap between. Like, and so I don't know which one is correct. Or I don't know which one contains the contradiction. So I'd have to go through a bunch of stuff again. This is very difficult. I mean, there's only a couple pieces related to this. So... Wait. No. Because he did fall. He wasn't blown up. Right? If he was blown up, his body wouldn't exist. Hold on. Let me go back and change the statement.
Hold it!
By pressing this and mashing through it all again. I have to match through this part again, where we see a demonstration of how she stabbed the guy in the chest with the screwdriver. And she says the real cause of death was the fall. So I don't know what's the contradiction. Is that the real cause of the death is the fall, or that she stabbed him? I feel like either could be the contradiction. I feel like either could be the lie. I meant to ask her to change it. Why did I... Okay. Which one is it? I don't feel like going through all of these and guessing again. Where is Jack? Jack is supposed to know the answers, even though he finished this game a year ago. He doesn't know the answers. He wouldn't be any help. over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. I mean, what else could he have been killed by? The explosion? Why would the cage have been toppled? Wait a minute, maybe that's the contradiction? Nope. There's only a couple pieces of evidence that have to do with this at all, which is the only thing saving me from having to, like, go through everything.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty!
Kill me.
Great. Mr. Albert Harebrain, even though I literally already declared him not guilty before this final, like, I should be declaring him not guilty either way. This cutscene doesn't make sense. Yes. Why does it auto set on no? That's weird.
Hold it.
Let's do the cause of death one. This set of text is longer the first time. There was a fire in the desperate found this cage lying in dirt. The cause of death was, and she pauses. Cause of death was ... The trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop. You know why that doesn't make sense? Because he wasn't dropped head first. It's definitely the cause of death that she's lying about. That weird little pause supports the theory. Yeah, why would he have neck trauma? I'm not sure which piece of evidence that would go with, but... Okay, it's not this one. There's only a few pieces of evidence that actually have to do with this. I mean, I guess this one would prove he was dropped feet first. This one, or is it this photograph?
Objection.
I'm gonna do the photograph first. Look at this photograph. Every time I do it makes me laugh. This is the cage that he was in. Not the... What is it, dude? This is a hard one. F. Yeah. This is a hard one, and there's two options. And I really, truly don't. I have actually no idea. Okay, so what have I presented on this statement? I have presented this one. I have presented screwdriver. Right? I have presented autopsy. Autopsy was the first one I presented. I presented this one. I presented this. No, this one doesn't matter. I want to just delete some of these. This one, I just presented. None of these matter at all. And this one. This one's way over here at the end. So I basically presented everything even slightly related to this incident. Have I presented the screwdriver on the death?
Objection.
Okay, well I have now. Okay, so I think I've presented every possible statement that could connect to the cause of death. Which really makes me wonder why she did that awkward pause. Wait, what about this?
Objection!
No, I didn't mean to. Well, now we've tried that one too.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Kill me!
I like that she uses her corn.
To hit the table.
I don't. I mean, it's kind of funny, but like.
I should have known this damn case was too easy. You missed it. I literally had a not guilty verdict earned, and then I was like, you know, I think we should learn more. I don't think we know everything yet. Which, like, cool, I guess, but... Bro, this little auto box up here, that's weird. This doesn't even work on this part. How do I turn it off? Oh, okay. Well, it's there now. The F button, pressing F does, press F to auto, but then pressing F again does not turn it off.
Hold it!
Von Karma is alive? Manfred Von Karma, can you help me with this case? I don't know what to do. There's two different versions of this evidence, and I don't know which one... there's two different versions of this testimony, and I don't know which one is the lie. Which part is the lie? I committed the murder. Case closed. You traveled back in time to commit this murder? But why, Von Karma? Why? Was it so I would go play the Golem game instead? Is that why? Is that why, Jack? Genuinely, though, do you remember anything about this part of the game? Which part? Okay, we've tried so many things with the real cause of death that I think we gotta switch over to what she did to the victim. Like, we've tried every even slightly related piece of evidence in relation to the cause of death. The toppled cage. Maybe the cage is the con because the cage isn't. I don't know.
Objection!
We're in guessing mode. So I've presented screwdriver on this one. I've presented autopsy report. I've presented... I haven't presented this photo, but I don't know... Like, this photo doesn't contradict anything. Because there's a stab wound right there. There's no way this photo goes with this statement. Unless... I already tried this with it, didn't I? Yeah.
Objection!
What? Okay, I guessed it. I guessed it. What's wrong with this photo? We'll see. We'll see. What is this song? I don't... Is this a new song? What on earth is the matter, guys? Have you lost your tongue? It's a banger, though. What is this remix of the other song? There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph. Please don't make me tell you where.
Objection!
What is this song? Why is this not played before? I don't recognize this. The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn.
Objection!
I agree, but I guess we have something. Wait. Oh yeah, because this photo was taken of the body, but in the location she moved it to. Oh my god. You know, I looked at this, like, strap with the blood on it and thought it was odd, but I was too confuzzled by, like, the details of where each cage was and where each picture was taken. It didn't, like, occur to me, like, the blood should not be over this strap if this was taken after she moved the body and strapped it in here. Like, if she stabbed him down there, there shouldn't be blood on the... Okay, yeah. Oh, I see it. It's always, like, the little detail, like, a blood stain extending where it shouldn't be part of an image that gets you in these games. If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Oh, wait. That's not even where I pointed. I was pointing at because the blood stain was on the strap, but he was talking about the direction of the blood flow, which is even trickier. Something I'd be even less likely to notice. Why is this song so freaking awesome? Why does it never play in the game before this point? The grand deception was set in motion. Shape of it is clear, the birdcage would have fallen on its side after a 30-foot drop. See, I thought maybe that was the contradiction. Like, oh, it didn't fall. Why did she do such a long pause before revealing the cause of death, then? Frick off with the misleading dialogue, lady. No more fun music. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. In short, Dr. Sithe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. If she stabbed him while he was standing up, that means she killed him. I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction, and there's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Sithe, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. I knew it! She was covering up that she did more than that, actually. The question of what the autopsy isn't even fabricated. The stab wound was the cause of death. If that was the case, what is it, man? What is the answer? Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. What's the lie? The autopsy report. She did stab him, and that was the cause of death. You had your subordinates do the work for you, and they authored the report, and they wrote down that the stab wound. She even let her subordinates think that he was stabbed. And that's, or, well, no, he was stabbed, but she let her subordinates write the truth, because the truth makes it look like Hairbrain did it. Wielded your superiority over them and claimed the credit for yourself. That's why I thought it was odd. That's why I was like, if you're fabricating this as, oh, a stab wound caused the death, why even write in there about the fall? Why include that in your autopsy report? But if the autopsy report is real, I can honestly say that's not what happened. Well, good. Glad to hear it. What on earth was the purpose of that exchange? Wait, what? What happened? Oh, wait, no, what, the autopsy report? Huh? Oh. How she was coerced. I mean, technically the autopsy report, she didn't fabricate it because it's true, right? She did stab the guy. She just wasn't coerced into it. Okay. I see. Clearly you weren't really coerced by some letter at all. What? If you were, where's the note? It's nowhere to be seen. That's as may be. So why don't you present it to the court? If the assertion vexes you. Oh, that's a good point. I don't know why we didn't ask her to present the note earlier. Because the note would prove that, like, because Drebber's saying, because she's saying, oh, I worked with Drebber, and Drebber is still denying it. If she had this note, she could present that to counter him. But I've already disposed of the note, and I'm not vexed in the slightest. Counsel, need I remind you that it was you yourself who established the coercion? I'm afraid that the little what? I keep thinking I picked the right one, and then I didn't! What's happening? Did she not stab him at all? I don't like this part of the case. We should have just let him be not guilty. I was doing much better before the, like, we need more info bit happened. The answer is very simple if we consider the sequence of events. No, it was not! The victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time of the murder. But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
What? So he moved himself to standing. So I was right! I'm so befuddled. If I was right, and she did just stab him after he stood up, then I was right about her not falsifying the autopsy result. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, he did get up. I was dead on. Mr. Asmund didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Sithe appeared. And then she stabbed him, making me right? Making me right and the game wrong? The victim was in fact alive at that point in time. It changes everything. She did stab him! And that was the murder thing, so she didn't fabricate the autopsy report. I should have been right for that. I should have been right for that. No, because this isn't a lie. Fuck off, dude. That was a bad present set there. I was right. Mr. Odiasmund's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Hairbrain. Nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. Because that line, the one that I picked, was, did she stab him or not? And she did. That was not the one. It should have been the autopsy one. Bad selection option. But whatever, we got her. It was you, Dr. Courtney Sithe. Ah! Order! Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? Wait. You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice, the trial would end. before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder. Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now, you're making all this up. As if I would do something like that.
Objection.
I assure you, the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic. Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. The autopsy lady was the ultimate sus mastermind. You know, I thought she seemed too evil to just have been, like, coerced into it. But that means that technically all three of those options, the you weren't coerced into it, you didn't stay, like the you weren't coerced into it, and the you didn't fake the autopsy report, both of those were also technically correct. I just didn't have the, like, through line to poke that hole in her. They should have just written that so every option was correct and led to the same result. Because it really, all of it was kind of a lie. The whole pretense of it was like a lie. Asmund was involved in any number of criminal activities from there's no connection between Dr. Sithe and this woman. And Asmund. That stupid present broke my brain and made me mad. There's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection.
No. When you question what possible reason is there for one to kill Mr. Asmund, something did come to mind.
What was it, Counsel? Explain to the court at once.
Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. Was it something in her office? The Iron Mask, scalpels. Scalpels is so unspecific. This is where not playing the game for a month. This is where not playing the game for 2 months bites me in the ass. I don't remember. Scalpels. Please be scalpels. I don't remember what scalpels even means. We saw scalpels in her office and we thought it was odd. I think is what happened. Just from this is the I'm like I don't.
Did you say scalpels? What's this about scalpels?
It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor. Okay, good. My memory was just good enough to get me on that one, even though I don't really remember what the. Because it wasn't actually put in the evidence log. It was something we saw in her laboratory. That's definitely what they were implying with, like, the way they set up this one, which is why I didn't pick Screwdriver. Or the Iron Mask. Because they were implying it's something we saw in her laboratory and thought was odd. Look at this big black book. Thick book. It's not black. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... well, one entry seems rather strange. They're buying that's right! For some reason they're buying 500 scalpels a month. How is that connected to Asmund, though?
500 scalpels? A month?
At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money from them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asmund's criminal out... Ooh, so she's way more involved. Is she, like, stealing money to give to... Look at this big book. Shut up, Casey! Shut up! Shut up! I saw the words big, thick book, and I couldn't remember... In my head, 2 alternate jokes were running. Big black and big thick. And I didn't remember which one it was. I didn't remember which one the text actually said. So... yes. No. Yeah, okay. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward. She's funding Asmund 10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching. Information relating to Dr. Scythe's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade.
Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean...
I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So she was coerced, but also she wanted to kill him too. Interesting. Odie Asman. You sneaky little... You stabbed Mr. Asman in the heart with all your might, to silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever. You'll never understand. None of you! What we've had to keep covered up all these long years. Why don't you just tell us then? Give us the lore on the professor. She didn't have a comedic over-the-top breakdown. I like those. There's very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb. The truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out. And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Scythe will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth about what happened. 10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate's had over you all these years. So was Drebber not guilty at all? I feel like he had to have been part of it. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really? It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they have talent. They can't even get that right, that they don't have talent. I couldn't even get that right in that statement. So they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's.
They make me sick.
I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber. I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it. You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim. Yes, I admit it. Okay, so he did intend to kill the guy. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asman's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. The revenge you sought didn't stop at Asman, did it? Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. He wanted revenge on the person who... the condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave, the person who caused that incident to happen to him in the first place. If your account of those events was all true, then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model, in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Scythe, to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asman turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye. About the coroner who'd handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learnt that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan. What a horrid tale. So he planned the thing, but Sithe killed the guy. That's interesting. He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him. For revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. Bro's moving like an animatronic. Five Nights at Drebber's. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer. I want to trap them in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. See, what's interesting, and it's continuing with this case, about Great Ace Attorney, every single case, either the killer is not, either the killer is sort of like, either the killer is sympathetic, or the victim was actually like, a bad guy. You know, like it's one. Sometimes the killer's a bad guy and they kill another bad guy. Sometimes the killer is like a good person who accidentally kills somebody. Like there's no cases that are like a clean cut. Still at this point, the most evil, cold-blooded, like callous murder that we've like that we've seen was the McGilded case. The one where our client, the only one where we didn't get the verdict we wanted, where the killer didn't face justice. It's a very interesting continuing thread to this. That there's always some sort of like bittersweet element to the result we get. Something that isn't quite justice served in the way you would think of it. In carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Hairbrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis, but you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. Still, Drebber's one of the less sympathetic killers. Or, I guess, criminals in this. They didn't technically kill him. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. But what I'm saying is none of the killers in this game have been cold-blooded monsters except McGilded. And he got off for his crime. I guess also the lady in the first case who killed Watson, and she also got off for her crime, and then later got killed by somebody else. Like, an interesting trend this game has, where the only truly, like, pure evil killers end up getting off, and then getting killed by someone else. Lord Von Zeeks, what of Dr. Sithe? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. Really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Hairbrain.
Oh, yes? It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt. Let's freaking go, Scoob! This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. Me, this dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy, I've been selfish and self-centered and above all, a fool. Professor, I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research, misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery.
How is that the conclusion he's come to here?
No, Professor, that's not true. Huh? Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way. Lord Von Zieks, and the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices. Oh. Let's go, good guy Von Zieks. Thank you, Barack. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. It is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections. None from me, my lord. Certainly not. This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever. What's that? He's done, is he? He's all over? You're not even paying attention. I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty. Finish my drink. Court is adjourned.
It's over. That was some trial. There sure was. 3.5 hours, baby. This is why I didn't stream this anytime earlier, because normally I get off work around 7:30, 8:30. By the time I get home, eat dinner, that's another hour. I would have been going till like midnight. What a splendid outcome, isn't Professor Hairbrain? Oh, it is, it is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain. Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Susato, I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up. You realize you were just caught up in a bad situation.
Ah! Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny.
Well, it's very kind, but just a student, so could really use that money, actually. The drink has been finished. We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough. Maybe like some kind of financial reward?
How about this? As a memento, the paper about my hypothesis
Is inside. Oh, one last
hypothesis.
Well, just a memento then. Thank you. I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now?
Oh my, yes. What am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the great exhibition whilst I'm here, too. See if new inspiration hits me. Well, yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that. What? Lord Von Zeeks, what are you doing in here? Barack. Well, Barack! That's me talking. Barack! I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey. You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution. Or the defense. Yeah. No, he wasn't prosecuting him to try and get him. He was prosecuting him because anybody else would not. He was like, nobody else will do this job better. Oh, did he appoint me to do the defense because he knew I was the only one who could, like, beat him, quote unquote? I always knew you had my best interest at heart. Don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on. Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you. What? From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets. But no! Hold on a minute, Barack. What about the great exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me. No sightseeing, Albert. Give up. Is he worried about the whole Reaper thing? That somebody's gonna kill? I thought he didn't believe the Reaper stuff. But maybe there's a part of him that's like, is someone out there making sure that all the clients that get off against me end up dying. Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Barack. And you know who didn't die was Sussy because he left the country. So he's like, you should get out of the country too. Lord Von Zeeks, what's all this about? A necessary precaution. Yes, I think I understand. You do? Yeah, the Reaper thing. Iris told me that when you met Lord Von Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well, even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. You mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now. But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were complete. Yeah, Gina's still here and still alive. True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. Truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. It's interesting that even though he's not the Reaper, he's still kind of like, at least when it comes to his close personal friend, he's still like taking these precautions. Like, but what if somebody is hunting down people? Like, what if there is a Reaper? Barack! Like the mustached Nipponese. This man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once. Right. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness. Is this your intention all along then, Lord Von Zeeks? In court, people think of him as the Reaper. This man seems absolutely merciless. And yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being.
Ah, yes, all right. Well then, Mr. Narahodo. Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you. I feel like somebody's gonna kill Albert before he can leave the country, and then Von Zieks is gonna be like, "Who the fuck?" Bro, best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust is settled, you must come visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes? Thought you'd gone too. We have matters to discuss. We do. Lore? You want to talk with me about lore? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Yo, what? A meeting with Von Zieks? The last time we had one of these, it was cool. Okay. What's this about? The Enigma. Barack Von Zieks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes. I thought it was going to be continued for a second there. I was like, what? What? Oh, shoot. The assistant. So are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice. He's got his wine glass. Do I need to fill up a little more? I still have like a tiny... That just splashed on my desk. Whatever, it wasn't that much. I still have like a tiny bit of vodka spritz left that I just kind of poured all over my desk. I'm relieved at least that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese comes from. Lore drop! Lore drop! He's given another lore drop. Well, I assumed you were just racist. Discombobulate. At first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagined you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now I think differently. You clearly know our ways. So I would guess that some specific incident led to your racism. The racism backstory lore? Let's go! I don't know why he's giving this to me now, but sure, I'll take it. The Professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest. This song. Whoa. He took your brother's life. Clint. My brother was Clint Von Zieks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. Let me throw this can away real quick. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then, too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of these programs, the 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan. Oh my god, was one of them the professor? Was one of them the professor? My desk is so wet. That's awesome. Oh. If it was 16 years ago then, one of them could have been my father. Tell me her father isn't the professor. Of course, I remember Dr. Mikotoba well. I had no idea. I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese. So, you've actually met my father. He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. Oh my god, this song is so, this song is getting me so invested in this. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit. and it made a very great impression on me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects, even. Just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. I'm so sorry, Lord Von Zeeks, truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. Where is he going with this? When I finally found out the killer's identity, so he does know the professor's identity. I kind of thought he didn't. I was under the mistaken impression that he did not know the identity of them, that they kept it a secret even from him. The reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. In plain sight? Oh, he was definitely a cop or something. Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was being forged, I think. Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship, and it was one of the exchange students, 100%. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions, which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war. What? A war? Between Britain and Japan? But that would mean... Oh my! You mean to say the professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion
Voice acting!
earlier, I thought to
Voice
myself,
acting!
yes, it's time.
Oh my god, he's gonna unmask it.
Time for you to come face to face with this hideous
His voice is good.
monster.
It's also not that different from the one I'm doing. I mean, it's better because it's like voice
I
acting.
borrowed the
but-
key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm
see
with
for
your own
yourselves
eyes
now.
the truth that's been hidden this past decade.
I just like when I do a voice for a character and then they give them voice acting and it's very... Oh god, they're talking for real. I know, this is like a cutscene. Almost. Kind of. It's not like... It's not fully animated, but...
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, a thought never even crossed my mind that the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face, I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
What? Bro, tell me it's not... The professor is the masked guy? Why did we think it was Kazuma then?
Father.
Oh. Kazuma's father? Is that Kazuma? That hair's
What?
different.
Father?
Bro, the lore. Holy crap, Lois! The lore!
Kazuma!
It is Kazuma. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. He got a makeover and he
My
looks
best
more
friend,
white than before.
Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned.
After seeing his father's portrait on the killer.
as he stood there before me.
The Kazuma reveal.
Ryunosuke. Hello again.
I'm surprised they voice acted all of this. I thought it was just going to be the face reveal, but that just keeps
My
going
friend.
with voice acting. It's Kuryu Kazuma. God damn it. It's the Dame Dane guy!
Kazuma-sama!
He just takes off the hood and it starts going Dame Dane, Dame yo, Dame Nano yo, Antaga, Stuki de, Suki de. My father is an
It's
evil
been
murderer.
a very long way.
Ba-na-na-na-na.
Thank you.
Is that why he wanted to go
Thank
to
you
England?
for
Actually,
guiding my friend
was
here
to find his
when I could
father
not.
who disappeared?
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily.
I owe you thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh, the sword. I was like, what's
Oh.
that? Bum, 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 bum,
Karuma.
ba, ba, bum.
The great blade of the Asogi clan, passed down through the generations.
His father passed that sword down
When
to
we
him?
left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul. But then, when the incident happened,
I guess his hair did kind of
it
look
was
like that.
Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
This is the longest stretch of voice acting this game has ever had. Like, it's interesting because this isn't a 2D... Usually, there's only voice acting when it's like a 2D animated cutscene, and they have a few of those throughout the game. But this is just a prolonged period of full voice acting with the, like, normal game models. Very
I've made it. At last.
Father. Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it. But I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Huh. Okay. Sorry, Madam Two Spools. Guess you're not getting your museum exhibit back.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about. But now is not the time. I'll be seeing you.
Holy crap, Lois! That was crazy!
That's all Kazuma said.
Remember that time when the
Before he turned
professor
and left
turned
us
out to
there
be Kazuma's
in the
father?
courtroom.
And then Kazuma bailed on us? Did Von Zeeks leave too? No, he's still here. So he's the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? And yet, did you not know? He's like, oh, I hate the Japanese because the professor was Japanese. But he also had an assistant who was Japanese? Did he just not know? 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there. Some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Von Zeeks' apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia, too. Yeah, what is Strongheart up to, dude? He's the one character that I still don't know how he connects to all this, but he's clearly cooking something. The man was apprehended, even executed. legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me, as asked. Guess I'm gonna have to go to. Well, I already set up. He already said he was gonna close Madame Two Spells' exhibit anyway, so. 10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him. Poor Susato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her, too. She's never talked about this with me before. It took time to adjust to having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son. A boy, 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. Well, now the professor is even more of a mystery to me, because why was the professor's son? Why is Kazuma the professor's son and he made a promise to his father to become a defense lawyer? I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time, as if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
Wow. I did not expect them to hide that much. The lore dump. The post-trial lore dump. When Von Zeeks wants to meet with you personally, you know you're about to get a lore dump. The demasking. Achievement unlocked. Let's go! Let's go! Twisted Karma. And his last bow? Ooh. That's a cool name for it. Huh. I guess we'll see what that is next time. Ha 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 ha. Twisted Karma and here's that bow. It was indeed a most bizarre incident born of a curious advertisement and a commonplace killing on the edge of town. What was this one called? The Return of the Great Departed Soul? I was not sure the boss and the attorney. Twisted Karma and his last blow. Well, see you in another 2 months when I play this game some more. I'm very hooked on Zelda, but also, I mean, I don't know, it could be sooner than that, but I'm very hooked on Zelda, and I do want to play more Yakuza 0. I never have Fridays off anymore. I don't know. Yeah, good stream, very good stream. Wow. Wow. So Kazuma's father is the professor. I mean, that's a big reveal, but the significance of it still has yet to be revealed. Because we don't, like... Alright. Arrivederci!